Hello, my name is Megan Blair, and for Discussion Board 3, I will be discussing J. Frank Norris and his involvement in the fundamentalist modernist controversy. Before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the Department of History's biblical principles, which state that God has established order, intelligence, and truth in the universe, and history as I begin this discussion about Norris. J. Frank Norris is a widely known controversial figure. Barry Hankins states in his introduction to God's Rascal, J. Frank Norris, in the beginning of Southern fundamentalism, that Norris was not your typical Baptist. Norris was born on September 18, 1877, in Dadesville, Alabama, to James and Mary Norris. His father was an abusive man to both his wife and young Frank. Norris would learn early in his life the dangers of the world. His father was shot, and as Frank came to rescue him, he was shot as well. In court, the men went back and forth of whose fault it was, but nevertheless, the shooter, John Shaw, was sentenced to 3 years, and Frank experienced many medical problems after the shooting, such as arthritis, which became a problem and would last most of his life after the shooting. After attending a Baptist revival, Norris decided God was calling him to be a preacher. He graduated from Baylor in 1903, then the Southern Baptist Seminary in Kentucky in 1905. After his college career, Norris became a pastor at McKinley Avenue Baptist Church in Texas and journalist at Baptist Standard. In 1909, though, he left and Norris began preaching at First Baptist Church in Fort Worth for 44 years. During this period as well, Norris was accused of burning the church and his own home. The newspapers questioned how the residence was set afire without arousing any of the family or awakening the night watchmen is a question that thousands of citizens are asking one another. Lucky for Norris, he was acquitted of the charges, and by 1920, Norris became the leader of the fundamentalist movement. According to Kristen Patton in her article, From Fundamentalist to Friend, the evolving relationship of Ben M. Bogard and J. Frank Norris, Norris fought Baylor because a teacher was teaching evolution. Because of this, Norris and his church was not allowed at the Baptist General Convention in 1922 or 23. He was a Baptist preacher and a fundamentalist who staffed the pre-minimalism fundamentalist missionary fellowship. In 1926, Norris shot Dexter Chips in his office. As the Waxahachie Daily Light states, Norris was almost happy and confident that he was going to win the case. Another paper, the New Britain Herald, stated that the friends of Chips wanted Frank convicted, but he stated that no condemnation to them that are in Jesus Christ. Ultimately, Norris was tried for murder and was acquitted on charges because he was using self-defense. J. Frank Norris was a complex man. He was a well-spoken public speaker. All the while, he could be crude and silly at times. As a preacher, he cared for people but believed Christian morality was below him in some ways. He believed he was doing what was right in God's eyes. He was successful at moving fundamentalism to the South, and J. Frank Norris was a man who changed the Baptist and fundamentalist theory forever. Thank you very much.